Deep Shot Podcast, Season 5, Episode 6. Baker Mayfield?
Bill Russell?
Yeah, Devontae Smith.
Bill Russell. That's what I'm talking about.
That's a number.
Ryan Howard?
Jackson Dart.
Ryan Howard. Jackson. That's a fool.
Jay Cutler.
Jay Cutler. Dude, we're on fire today. Welcome to another episode of the Deep Shot Podcast. It is a big one. The fellas are revealing their college football playoff brackets today. I'm sure everyone will agree with what we have to say. Got the AFC South to talk about. We're going to give you some top 5 players over there, some over-under win totals, the division winners. We've got deep thoughts. It's going to be a great show tonight. Thank you for being here. Whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or if you've found us somewhere else that I don't know we're on, make sure you subscribe. Go on over to YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to that. All the video podcasts are on there. They're fun to watch, fun to see our great faces. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. Facebook over 350 followers in 1 week. Thank you for doing that as well. All right. We're going to get into the college football playoff brackets. We've all filled ours out, so we're going to talk about that in a second. But I wanted to give congratulations to somebody tonight. All right. Big news in college football in the preseason. All right. Did you guys hear who the preseason coach of the year was?
Did.
They have that?
Dan Lanning. Shout out to Dan Lanning on winning the preseason Coach of the Year award from CBS Sports. Now, this is obviously a huge honor, but also you could argue, and I did early on Instagram, follow us, that this could be a curse. Now, some would say, Gary, Ryan Day was the CBS Sports Coach of the Year, preseason Coach of the Year 2 seasons ago. They went on the one national championship. Fair point. They also lost to Michigan for the 4th year. But do we know who last year's preseason CBS Coach of the Year was? Caleb, any guesses? Jonathan, I think you may know. Caleb, any guesses?
Kirby Smart? I don't know.
It was indeed James Franklin. It was James Franklin who was the preseason SEC Coach of the Year last year. So, with all that said, Dan Lanning could be fired by the end of the year here at Oregon. Is anybody worried for his safety or his job security at this point?
I mean, this goes back to something I think we had the earlier conversation about where, like, you just never know in college football. Somebody that's got high expectations is going to lose big this year. Could be Lanning. There's been a lot of money up there in Oregon. And if there's anybody that has, I don't want to say this. I mean, maybe it's early, and I know Lanning's only like, 45 or whatever. Playoff success has not been there for the guy so far. And James Franklin and him share that. You know, you're coming off a big season. You're expecting to go the next level. Everybody's talking about Oregon being number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 in their preseason, best D-line in the country, Corey and Moore, all the bells and whistles. What if it flops? What if they win 8 games?
A lot of similarities of if you think about it, right? Oregon last year in the college football playoff semifinals, starting the season number 2 in the country. Penn State started the season number 2 in the country, was in the semifinals the year before. What if Oregon beats Boise State, beats Oklahoma State, beats Portland State, 3-0, and then we lose to USC? And then guess who they would play after USC if they lost to those people? UCLA. Wouldn't that be something? And then if they lost to Nebraska, all of a sudden they're 3-3. Could Dan Lanning be fired? Who's to say?
I don't think Oregon's coming into Oregon to get you fired this go around like Franklin got the treatment last year. It'll have to come after if he does lose to USC and UCLA like that, probably going to wrap it up. Oregon's not losing to UCLA, brother.
They do play Illinois and Northwestern the 2 weeks after that. So, it could get, those are teams that I'm pretty sure beat Penn State last season. So I'm just saying things could spiral out of hand. Now, Jonathan, if Dan Lanning got fired, would you start calling him Stinky Dan Lanning?
No, I wouldn't. I think there's a massive difference between the resume that James Franklin has right now and his,
What is it? What is the difference?
Lack of good wins, and how he's just been doing it over and over and over and over for years and years and years. I think you got to give Dan Lanning some time. I think this whole segment is clickbait right now.
I'm asking questions. I'm presenting. I told you a lot of similarities. I would argue Dan Lanning and James Franklin not much of a difference. Not much of a difference if you really think about it. We both have one Big Ten title. They've both beaten Ohio State.
How long did James Franklin coach at Penn State? And how long has Dan Lanning been at Oregon? They got the same number of Big Ten titles.
I think James Franklin was 10 years in almost?
Yeah, but James Franklin won a Big Ten title in his 3rd or 4th year at Penn State.
Lanning's in year 5?
Yeah.
For Oregon?
Didn't Lanning win in his 3rd year?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of similarities here. Are you not understanding what I'm
just saying? One guy was there for 10 years. One guy was there for 10 years, has 1 title. One guy's been there for 4 or 5. 4 full seasons, and he's got one. I
Well,
think
that's what I'm saying. What if it goes wrong for Oregon this
doesn't-
season? That's just, it's the question. I don't understand. I'm just asking the question. I don't understand. If you don't want to talk about this, dude, we don't have to talk about this. All right, let's talk about this. You want to talk about something that pisses me off? Okay. There was, again, we'll get to the playoff brackets here in a second, but I had to bring this up, and I thought about making this my deep thought, but I had something else I wanted to talk about for my deep thought. Look, CBS Sports, again, they just shit the bed on here if they get Dan Lanning fired, and the Oregon fans are going to hate him forever. There's somebody who works for CBS Sports who I've never really been a fan of. I've never really been a fan of that podcast over there. I'm not even going to mention their name. But there's a guy named Fudd Elliott that decided he was going to tell... No, just preference this. He gets paid to talk about college football. All right? That's his job. It's literally his job. I don't know how many... Jonathan listens to their podcast. I don't know how many times it comes out a week or whatever. He posted this the other day. And if you're listening on podcasts, I'll read it to you. This is his Yes Honey Weekends. The Saturdays you can safely make plans this fall. Now, let me just tell you the weeks he had included here. September 5th. Does anybody know what September 5th is?
I believe that would be week 1.
That is week 1 of college football. Bud Elliott, college football analyst, is telling you that you can take week 1 of college football off. And then the second one is September 19th. Did you guys know Ole Miss and LSU play on September 19th?
No, it's not a game worth watching, obviously. So.
No. October 3rd? I mean, look, I'm not going to say that as the most packed slate of games, but this is where it really pisses me off. If you're a college football fan, you understand, one, you get 12 days or 13 weeks, 13 days, really, because there's a bye week. We all understand that, right? 14 if you count week 0. All right. Limited time. 52 weeks in a year, not even maybe 2/8 of a year, 1/4.
We're not math majors.
Don't know the math. But just because Texas is not playing Ohio State on October 3rd, or Oklahoma's not playing Michigan, or Tennessee's not playing Florida, that just means we can just not watch college football. We're just gonna willy-nilly miss a Georgia Vanderbilt game. We're just gonna willy miss a Miami Clemson. What? Well, we don't have to talk big teams. What if we just say, I'd like to watch Northern Illinois versus Ohio today? What is that really what we're doing? We're just saying, no, book the trip. And then October 31st is another weekend. He was saying his last one. Go trick-or-treating.
I'll be trick-or-treating that weekend.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. In Mercedes-Benz Stadium when Georgia beats
sir,
Florida, so he just said, again, 12 games. You get 12 games as a guaranteed as a fan. All right. To watch your team play. He's telling you 4 of them. Go ahead. And look, what do you guys got anything to say here before I go on to my next point?
This guy doesn't like college football.
No.
Yeah, it's a tough look if you're going to call yourself a college football analyst, much less a college football fan. You don't want to see this. I think this totally misses the mark, especially with that chat GPT ass graphic. It's that might be the worst part of the whole thing, Gary. Yeah.
As somebody who spends a lot of times on graphics, I would agree.
Exactly.
This is my other point.
How could you be an analyst and say, you know what, guys, week 1, let's get out of town?
Week 1 is actually crazy. Literally, you wait the whole off season for week 1. And you're saying, fuck it, just don't watch.
That's insane.
Like preseason NFL, it doesn't really matter. Like, what are we doing?
So this next graphic I have is the one he tried to follow up with, and he goes, park your ass Saturdays, which goes back to my point. He's got, I believe this is week 4, week 6, or week 7, whatever, a bunch of dates, right, with a bunch of big games. And this, and for a podcast that, I had to dig some digging because he really pissed me off. And he's talking about, we talk about every conference. We talk about this and that. Well, this Park Your Ass Saturday doesn't include any games outside of the Big Ten or SEC or Notre Dame. So seems to me like this guy's all about the glitz and glamour of college football and not the nitty gritty. So I'm just going to say,
if you listen to that podcast, which we won't name, no shout outs. This guy especially is not a fan of the G6. He's not a fan of any other team outside of Miami and the ACC. He's not a fan of anything in the Big 12, really. He'll give some praise a little bit to Texas Tech. That's about it. But he's worried about those 2 conferences, and that's it. He's also more of a recruiting guy. He was like in the recruiting world before he.
No wonder he's more worried about Fridays.
So, that's where their head goes. It's like the Ari Wasserman. I know you love him too, Gary.
You don't get me started on that guy.
What's wrong with Ari, man? You don't like him?
Dude,
no, what's there to like? What's there to like? Don't.
He has
All I'm
decent
trying to say
questions.
is before we move on to this playoff, don't be like Bud Elliott. Don't be like him. All right. Especially if you're gonna call yourself an analyst. All right. I'm not saying you got to know the ins and outs and everything, and don't try to come at me or say, "Oh, well, I know this guy. I know this guy on this team. I know a third string at Miami of Ohio. I know this. I know that." It doesn't matter. Well, you obviously don't care about watching them. So what does it matter?
I love the little thing at the bottom, the little memo, clear your schedule. This is college football, as if the weeks 1, 3, and 8 and 9 or whatever weren't.
His schedule has Alabama on it 5 times. Like, come on, dude. You might just go watch NFL. I mean, there's only 32 of those teams. But do you think he's ever watched Maction?
It's not giving me the vibe that he does.
For Maction, man. That's still just a great way to, in the middle of your week, hey, let's reset here. Let's get some ball on the TV.
Maybe that's the vibe he's trying to give off. Maybe he's saying only watch weekday college football.
Hey, you know what? I bet he's never been to a Kennesaw State game on a Wednesday night against Liberty.
Nope.
Or wait, is that? I think they were playing UTEP, right?
No, it was UTEP. Great game. Great cover.
Great game.
All right, but that's over. I'm done ranting. Let's get into some predictions that I'm sure everybody will agree with. Okay, we've done it. We have made our college football playoff brackets. All right, now I will say this. In terms of the teams involved, after looking at all three, Caleb and Jonathan don't know each other's, but I know all three of ours. It's pretty similar in terms of the teams we've got involved. Okay, so I'm going to go first and reveal my college football playoff bracket. Again, you should be watching on YouTube if you're not, but if you're listening on podcast, don't worry, we're going to run it through for you. Welcome to Gary's college football playoff bracket. All right, we're going to start in the top left region here on the graphic. Jonathan's already putting his hat down, already making faces, which is crazy after seeing his bracket. Crazy. UNLV, I've got us a 12 seed. Now, the 12 seed, I think, is anything that you could really put any team there. I don't think you're going to get a lot of arguments about, what G6 team you got making a playoff. Obviously, Dan Mullen and the boys, they've put together a good squad out there at UNLV. They had a good squad last year. Obviously, they lost a quarterback. They'll revamp. You just kind of trust Mountain West. They don't have to deal with Boise State anymore because they're in the Pac-12, so they'll be able to do some things. We'll find out there. I've got them playing Texas in the first round. I've got Texas as the 5 seed. At my 9-8, I've got the Oklahoma Sooners at the 9 seed. I know you guys don't like them. I'm high on Oklahoma. I'm high on John Mateer. I do agree that schedule may be a little bit tough in the first 5 games, especially with the Michigan, Georgia, Texas. I do believe they'll be able to beat Michigan. The Georgia, Texas, we'll find out. But I think when you look at the rest of the schedule, very winnable down the stretch. I think the team will get better. Defense will adjust like we saw last season and be fun down the stretch. 8, Ohio State. Spoiler, everyone had Ohio State as their 8 seed in the playoff bracket. So I have Ohio State as the 8 seed. I think I said yesterday on College Football Only, make sure you go subscribe to that as well. I thought Ohio State could go 9-3. If there's any team that I feel like could go 9-3 in the playoffs, it maybe could be Ohio State. But I also think realistically, 10-2 is probably where I'd feel comfortable with them at. They've got tough games with Indiana, Oregon, obviously Texas, USC, Michigan. I mean, they've got some tough games, but I feel like obviously they're talented enough. But I do think they'll slip up, so I don't have them as a bye week team. So I've got UNLV versus Texas at 12-5, Oklahoma versus Iowa State at 9-8. My 10-7 game, I've got Alabama at the 10 seed. I know a lot of people want to put Alabama back, especially in the preseason. I'm down with that, but I think when you look at their schedule, the first 5 weeks seem very manageable. They should get to 5-0. Georgia, a game they'll probably end up winning because they always beat us. And then they just got to go 4-2 to the end of the season, and I think they'll easily be in the playoff. Not sure about the SEC championship and everything, but I do believe they'll be a playoff team. Number 7, I got Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's only loss will be to Miami this year, so I think that's what's going to keep them out of the bye week area, but I think they're going to the playoffs. My 11 seed is Penn State. This is a schedule pick pretty much because I do believe that Iowa State team was rolling last year, had a lot of injuries late in the season, but I believe in Matt Campbell and what they're trying to do. I believe the Big Ten is already soft, and when you give Penn State the schedule that doesn't include Ohio State or Oregon or Indiana, you're giving them a good little setup. So I believe Penn State can get to 10-2 at least, maybe 11-1, and I've got them as the fringe team. And at 6, I've got Texas Tech, Big 12 winner. May slip up once, and I just don't think they'll have the bye. They'll be good, pretty dominant in the Big 12. I don't think they'll be as good as they were last year, and I think there's going to be some better teams.
Can
All right.
we just talk real quick about that Texas Tech logo? Because they just changed it before
Yeah,
in
they
the
did.
offseason.
And I was pretty refrained during the offseason of putting that anywhere, but I kind of have to now.
Yeah, I mean, what do you guys think about it? For
Ugly.
one, yeah, I think it's ugly. I think it's fucking 100 times worse than what they had. I mean,
Yeah,
they just
agreed.
basically put the Tennessee T, a smaller one and a bigger one, and overlapped them. I mean,
Yeah.
this is.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess maybe that's like their old school logo, but like, this is fucking terrible.
When you talk about Chat GPT looking logo, there it is right there for sure.
Gross.
Yeah, it just feels like everything else that's being made in modern times. Like, I mean, I don't want to get too philosophical, but like houses, buildings, churches, they all look like prisons now. You know what I mean? Like back in the day, they look cool as shit. You'd have brick houses and wood and log cabins. You don't see log cabins getting built anymore. Those are cool, you know? So yeah, they're getting rid of all the cool stuff, just dumbing it down here. Make sure it's easy to read.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, so now we're going back. So I've read you all my 8 teams playing in the first round. Texas plays UNLV. I've got Texas beating UNLV and playing Indiana as the 4 seed. I believe Indiana, again, 11-1 at worst. Going to the Big Ten championship, going to lose to Oregon. I think they'll have a really good season, be a really good team. I don't think Indiana's going anywhere. My 1 seed is Ohio State is going to end up playing Miami. I think Miami will go undefeated this year. All right. I think they'll beat Notre Dame. So that's why I've got them at number 1. You've seen the rest of the schedule. You already know. At number 2, at the 2 seed playing Notre Dame in the second round. We've got Notre Dame beating Alabama. I've got the Georgia Bulldogs. I think we'll be winning the SEC. We've talked about that. I think, again, 1-loss team at max in the regular season, probably to Alabama, win the SEC championship. We'll be at number 2 for the 3rd straight year. A lot of rematches in my thing. Texas Tech beating Penn State in the first round as well, and they'll play Oregon, who will be the 3 seed. Obviously, I think Oregon wins the Big Ten. I think Oregon may lose a game in the regular season, maybe to Ohio State, which gets Ohio State in the playoffs, yada, yada. So I've got Texas versus Indiana. I've got Texas winning that game against Indiana in whatever bowl game it is. I think you really got to think about that stuff when you're making these quarterfinal picks. You know, these are not home games. I think Texas will obviously have a really good roster. I know you guys do too. And they will definitely be getting to the semifinals in here. I think Indiana, you know, I know they were the only team last year that didn't lose. We're having a bye. I don't think it happens this year. I've got Texas moving on, and I've got them playing Miami. I got Miami beating Ohio State for the 2nd straight year in the quarterfinals and moving on. On the other side, I've got Georgia beating Notre Dame, getting revenge from the Sugar Bowl 2 years ago. I'm sure it'll be the Sugar Bowl once again. If I had to guess that they'll be playing in, just because that's how it always works for Georgia somehow. But I believe Georgia's going to get that revenge. I'm really high on Georgia this year. Shocker. Texas Tech in Oregon. I've got Oregon beating Texas Tech for the 2nd straight year as well. Texas Tech will be a good squad for the Big 12, probably be good enough to beat Penn State, but I don't have them good enough to beat Oregon again. So we're back in the semifinals. I've got Texas playing Miami and Georgia playing Oregon. I've got Miami beating Texas in the semifinals. I believe Darian Mensah, Malachi Toney, Mark Fletcher, that offensive line, that defensive line, it's all going to be, by this point in the season, really refreshed, just like we saw last year. They're going to have to get an easier schedule in the ACC. It's going to help them in the playoffs. And I've got Georgia beating Oregon, Kirby Smart beating Dan Lanning. Once again, throwback to 2022, greatest game of my life. And I've got Georgia playing Miami in the national championship, and I've got Georgia winning the national championship. I don't know how many years I've picked Georgia to win the national championship.
Everyone.
Probably since they last won it. But look, I believe in the Georgia team, and you can call it homerism, you can call it whatever. I don't think picking Georgia to win the national championship is that crazy. I really don't. So I
As
think
he wears
Georgia
a Georgia shirt and a hat at the same time, you know, just absolutely advertising what's going on.
You had to know you were going to be doing that and wearing the Georgia shit. Like,
to be honest, I didn't think about that part of wearing it, but I am wearing all the Georgia stuff. So I do believe Georgia will beat Miami in the national championship in my college football playoff bracket. So that's mine. First time you guys have seen it. What do you guys think?
Good pick. It's a good pick.
What do you guys think of the bracket and whole?
Okay, I just got to get it off my chest. Penn State. I know it's this. I understand the schedule, and that's literally the only thing that people are talking about with Penn State. And what if they lose one more game? Then they're not. What if they go 9-3, 8-4, 7-5? That's a real possibility. It's not like this team went 12-0 like Texas Tech did in the Big 12 last year. They went 8-4. And it's basically Iowa State in the Big Ten.
Yeah, but I said, they were injured. A lot of their team was injured last season. Later in the year, they had a lot of injuries.
That's fine, but I think the Big 12 is obviously a worse conference than the Big 10. I think it's just a little bit different. I'm not sure how well it's going to translate in year one, especially since Yeah, I know they don't have the big teams on their schedule, but I just don't see Iowa State in the Big Ten making it to the playoffs year one.
That's great. I figured
Everything else looks fine
you would
there.
say that. I figured you would say that. But
Yeah.
honestly, Jonathan, I've seen your bracket. I've got it here in front of me.
Let me comment on this one. Then I really want to see that bracket. I really want to see it.
It's really not that crazy. Gary's
Yeah,
got
well, you had 3 11 seeds, so
that's we can talk about it here in a minute.
He's already expanded to 16, dude, in his bracket. Penn State was a question mark to me for sure. Definitely understand the schedule dynamic. I just don't think, like, at the very end of the day, when you have like a 9-3 team in the SEC or somebody that's played a tougher schedule that sits at 10-2, it could be BYU, and you're sitting there comparing the schedule dynamics. We've seen it happen to teams before. Like, they could be number 11 going in and they get bumped out. So that's kind of where I see Penn State being. I do think they're going to probably win 10 games, 9 to 10 games. They'll be in that department. I mean, it's going to be hard for them to lose more than that. I mean, it'd have to be a complete disaster, kind of like last year, but different ingredients this year for what they got going on. I want to push back on something about the G5. You were talking about the picks. Like, you could put whoever. I really think the G5 is like down to like 4 teams. I think it's UNLV. I think it's James Madison, Boise, and the one that I'm going to put in my bracket in a second, which, spoiler alert, South Florida, because those are the ones that spend a bunch of money.
yeah, fair point. And I mean, I didn't mean you could put like, UTEP in there or anything, or like
it definitely doesn't matter because all of them
but
will
you know
lose.
what I meant. Like, I don't think anybody's, if you were respectable about your G5 pick, like if I put Kennesaw State up there, it probably was going to be, haha, look at the, Jake last year picked Georgia Southern. We obviously knew that wasn't going to happen. So, all right, any other problems with the bracket?
Not really. I mean, you'll obviously
Oklahoma.
see here in a second. Yeah, Oklahoma's my other bugaboo.
I maybe they could. I mean, the roster is definitely good enough to be able to get the 9
You guys
seed.
do not like Oklahoma. That's going to be fun to watch.
I like their defense a lot. Their defense is badass, as most Brent Venables coach defenses are. But I'm not as high on John Mateer as you are. You're smoking that John Mateer pack. You're getting high, buddy. I'm staying even.
Well, Jonathan, me and you usually like to make a bet every year.
We already have.
What's the bet this year?
Isn't it South Carolina's going to win more games there? Oh, wait, no. I think it's Beamer is going to make it to the end of the season. Is it not? Didn't we do that at Dresden?
It was 2028.
That's right, 2028.
So
Woof.
if you want to talk Oklahoma over under wins, we did that last year as well. We can talk.
I'll do Oklahoma playoffs.
That's not good.
Not too
you'd have
confident.
you'd have to give me double the money.
What?
You'd have to.
That don't seem too far off. What is Oklahoma's
odds?
At all?
Why would I have to
what's their odds to get in the playoff? Like plus 800, plus 1,000?
No way, it's that high.
No.
650?
It's probably like plus
like 200,
175. Yeah.
So you'd have to give me plus 175. We can talk about it. All right. Who wants to go next?
I guess I'll go next since it's going to be such a crazy bracket.
Watch out. Here is Jonathan Kessinger's college football playoff bracket. Now, go ahead. I'll let you explain. I'll talk later.
Okay. So it's a beautiful looking bracket. I think you boys would agree. Maybe not. In that 5-12 matchup, very, very similar. Actually, the same as Gary, with Texas at number 5, UNLV in the G6 spot. I like what Dan Mellon does out there in Vegas. It's G6. They're going to get splattered no matter what. So, given my reasons why I picked UNLV, but I like what they got going on out there. So, fuck it. They'll make it. Going on to the 8-9 game, I did have Ohio State, like Gary mentioned. I also had LSU, and maybe that's where we kind of differ. I think LSU is going to be a better team. I think they have better talent. I think they have a better coach. Yeah, I think they're also one of those teams that's going to potentially be sitting at 10-2, maybe even 9-3, where you're like, okay, they played a pretty tough schedule. They have some pretty good wins. Are we really going to let in a 10-2 Penn State team here? Maybe, but who knows? So I like LSU there in that 9 spot playing against Ohio State in the 8 seed. Then we move over to the 7-10 matchup. Now, this is probably, where some people are getting their panties in a wad. Got BYU in there. But as we know, if you're a real listener of the Deep Shot podcast, I gave all my reasonings about BYU during our Big 12 preview. I just think they have a really, really good coach. I think they have a really good line of scrimmage, both offensively and defensively. And I think their quarterback is a gamer. He's kind of like a Tim Tebow type of quarterback. It's not going to wow you with the arm. I didn't say he was Tim Tebow. I said he's kind of in that.
That's a crazy comp, though.
He kind of plays like it, does he not?
He's a runner. He's a runner.
Yeah,
first.
he plays like Tim Tebow. That's what I was saying. I'm not saying he is Tim Tebow.
Clip it.
Clickbait. Here we go. Yeah, so I like BYU to come out of the Big 12 and be the champ there. I think 7 seed. Yep. And then I have them playing SMU at the 10 spot. That might shock some people, but I think SMU is a good, well-coached program. I think, they still have Kevin Jennings, who's I think is in his third year starting now. They have some really good talent. They spin a bunch in the portal. Apparently, they got some really good pieces. I'm not going to lie to you and sit here and tell you that I know every single person that they brought in. I do know that they feel confident about what they have.
Big ACC guy.
Big ACC guy over here. And they've done pretty good damage in that league since they've gotten in there. It doesn't seem like it's, they seem to be in the top 3 or 4 every single season, even making it to the playoffs a couple of years ago. I think they do it again this year. That brings us to our 6-11 matchup. At the 6th spot, I got Notre Dame. I think that the only loss, I'm right there with Gary. I think the only loss is to Miami. And so that soft-ass schedule, they're going to have the wins, and it's going to look really pretty. So they'll be high up there. They'll get some home field advantage in that first round game. And I think they're going to be playing Texas A&M. And this is where I think is really going to, draw some people off. Because if you take a look, let's just compare them to Oklahoma. They both have pretty good talent. They both have kind of a roller coaster of a team in terms of like Marcel Reed. He can look like, Pee Wee football quarterback, or he can look like, kind of Heisman contender quarterback. You never really know. However, I think the schedule sets up to where they should be able to get through most of their games. And if they get by, LSU, Alabama, Texas, and Oklahoma with 2 losses, I think they're right there. And where I think Oklahoma kind of falls short is that Texas A&M game. So essentially, that's me just picking Texas A&M to win against Oklahoma in, I think it's like week 11 or week 10. It's a late season game.
Big 12 matchup.
Yeah. So I that's kind of where I lean. People see it differently. That's cool. That's fine. I'm a little bit higher on Mike Elko than I am Brent Venables and Texas A&M as a whole. I think I mentioned that in our SEC previews. I've liked him since he was the DC at A&M and then went to Duke and came back. But so that's who I've got in the first round. Flip it to the other side of the bracket. Texas moves on in that 5-12 matchup. I have them playing Indiana as well in the 4 seed. I think Indiana, shocker that we all kind of think similar things, but maybe a little bit of groupthink here going on. Indiana's going to be a good football team. Obviously, they have a really good head coach. They're going to have him prepared for, every single game on that schedule. I do think they end up dropping 1, maybe 2 by the time they get into the Big Ten championship. And so that's why I have them in that 4 seed. Then I have Texas moving on from that game. So I just think they have too much talent. I think Arch Manning, with a whole year of playing and then an offseason under his belt, especially with the new weapons that he has, it just makes too much sense for me not to put them in there at this moment. So Texas technically gets the upset over Indiana and moves on. In the 1-8 matchup, I had Ohio State moving on and beating LSU in that game. So who's the 1 seed? Miami. Obviously, they're going undefeated. They're going to beat Notre Dame. They're going to run through the ACC. They got all the talent. They stole Duke's quarterback and their top wide receiver. That should be illegal, by the way. But what am I going to do about that?
I think it was actually, but the judges are cool.
That's just ridiculous. Like, whatever. Anyways, that's a conversation for a different time, maybe next off season. But so I got Miami versus Ohio State in that 1-8 matchup. I have Miami moving on to play Texas in the semifinals. All right, moving on to the other side of the bracket. I had that BYU SMU game at 7-10. I've got SMU beating BYU in that game. Reasons: I like SMU better. That's all I can tell you. That I like both of their programs. I like both of their head coaches. Brett Lashley, he does a little too much talking for my liking, but he tends to back it up. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
No way Bud Elliott likes BYU.
Never watched him.
He does or doesn't?
No shot.
He's not watching them this year. He just told us that.
Yeah, that's facts.
He doesn't think those are real football teams. Those are G6 teams for all he cares.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
G8.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I got SMU moving on. They're going to be playing Georgia. I think Georgia's going to be the SEC champ this year. Super high on them. A year older for most of those guys. Georgia was a pretty damn young team last year, especially along the D-line where everybody knows the struggles that they had rushing the passer. I think you're going to see quite the change there this year. They got Elijah Griffin in there, they got All the 5 stars that you heard about the last couple cycles, they're sitting on that Georgia D line alongside the linebackers, alongside the DBs. I mean, that defense is going to be suffocating this year. They're going to be a top 3 or 5 unit all season long. So I think Georgia's going to smoke SMU. No problem. They move on. All right. In that Notre Dame A&M matchup, the 6 versus 11, I got Notre Dame moving on. I think they're going to get revenge on them from last season when Texas A&M came up there and beat Notre Dame in their place. And, you can't deny that CJ Carr, he's pretty good. He's pretty good quarterback. I had my doubts about him last year too. He kind of shut me up a little bit. It is remaining to be seen what their wide receivers look like, how good they are, how scared teams are going to be to play against them and game plan against them. But I think this is where the Marcel Reed, kind of experiment comes to a halt. I think he loses, and I think he costs him the game at some point. Anyways, so I got Notre Dame moving on, playing Oregon, who's my Big Ten champ, in the 3 spot. So Notre Dame versus Oregon in the quarterfinals. Oregon's just going to be, they're right there along with Georgia. They got so much talent. Everybody's a year older. They brought everybody back for this run to win a championship. So I think they're going to have a fire lit under their asses all season long. They're going to make it to the Big Ten championship. They're going to win it, and they're going to get in that 3 spot. Okay, so now we jump over to the other side of the bracket. Like I mentioned, my first semifinal, Texas versus Miami. That's going to be a big time game, fellas. That's going to be awesome. Let's just, you can picture it now. It's going to be freaking awesome. Anyways, Miami, it's, me in my ACC coach rankings, I just think there's a little bit of Cristobal, that I just can't really believe in. I've seen him blow games too many times. 1 year doesn't sway my opinion fully. Yes, he showed me some things. All right, I noticed it. I'm keeping track of it now. But it's still in the back of my mind, those games against Georgia Tech where he should have kneeled the ball and he did, So we all know how that goes. It's going to happen again. Texas makes it to their first national championship game since Vince Young, I guess. Yeah. So that's who I got making it from that side of the bracket. On the other side, be
Colt McCoy. We're going to get murdered if we let that slide. Colt McCoy played in the Natty against Bama in 2009 and got hurt.
Good call. You're right. You're right. Sometimes when you just have so much ball knowledge,
close, boy.
When you have so much ball knowledge in here, some things just get leaked out, Anyways, that's a good call, Caleb. Appreciate you. Yeah, other side of the bracket, we have Oregon versus Georgia, the 2 versus 3 seed in that semifinal. It's a rematch of the neutral site game that they played in Atlanta, but Lanny's first season. Yeah, I think you just got to go with the experience. This will be Dan Lanny's biggest game he's ever coached in. Is he going to make it? I don't know. I think they're going to play well. I think it's going to be a great game. But I've seen Georgia in this. Yeah, I've seen Georgia in this position before. I trust them way more than I do Dan Lanning in Oregon. Maybe that's because I'm in the South. They're out west. I don't know. But I think the Dogs get it done. And so that means I have Georgia versus Texas, an all SEC championship. Some people said it couldn't be done anymore. I don't know. So that's what some people are saying. Not me. I'm still a freaking believer, okay? And I think the Dogs get it done. Champions again.
Nice. Well, obviously, me and you had the same champion. Me and you actually had the same 5 seeds. So
we're not so different, Gary.
That's crazy. I'll just say this. Look, the LSU thing, I think LSU. I just see LSU 9-3. That's all I keep thinking when I think of LSU 9-3. So I'm not sure they'll get in. The SMU thing, I guess. The BYU, that's your Big 12 champ. So you didn't have any other Big 12 team in there. So okay, but Jonathan sent me 3 11 seeds today when I asked him for his thing. He said Texas A&M or Texas Tech or Tennessee.
You asked me
Tennessee?
at 8 in the morning. Okay, listen.
Well, technically, I asked you 2 days ago. Caleb sent me his yesterday.
That's fair.
I know you guys don't, read things I text you.
That's a fair point. I read my text the morning
you text
of.
Us?
Yeah. Anyway, okay. So I put those as placeholders because I was going to think on it a little bit more during the morning. And then you were hitting me up. Yeah, I just gave you something. So anyways,
I think you made the right decision.
I think I did too.
It would have been crazy if you had Tennessee in there for sure.
Well, if you go back and listen, real ballers know, real Deep Shot podcast listeners know. During the SEC preview, I mentioned Tennessee as a team to watch. What if that Faison Brandon who, by the way, number one quarterback in last year's class, true freshman, 5-star, talented as all get out. You know, that guy at Alabama, Keelan Russell, he's built like that. He's got similar talent level too. If he goes off, watch out now. Watch out. I'm not saying they will.
Let me take that back. I don't think it would have been that crazy at Tennessee. I maybe could have got behind it. I think Texas A&M, I'm not really as high. Obviously, I don't think this is a Marcel Reed loving podcast, so I don't think we have to hide behind that. I think they'll feel the lumps of losing a lot of what they did last year, especially on the lines of scrimmage. You know, I'm honestly just shocked to see you having the support for Texas A&M. I guess that's what one good year does for you.
I've never been a hater of Texas A&M.
All right. But I will say, if you put Texas Tech in there and you had 2 ACC and 2 Big 12 teams, you would not be welcomed on Fudd Elliott's podcast. I'll tell you that. No chance.
Yeah. I don't think I'm getting that invite anyway, buddy. But yeah, I mean, it's good that I went with another SEC team, you know, because I agree that would have been kind of crazy. And I've also said I'm not super high on Texas Tech this year. So, yeah, after I thought about it a little bit more, I was like, okay, yeah, these 2 are out. Let's slide in A&M. They're going to lose. Whoever's in that 11th spot, they're going to lose it.
Yeah. All right, Caleb, any thoughts on this bracket before we get to yours?
I think Marcel Reed just doesn't let A&M get there. We're haters. Hello. I can get behind SMU being a 10 seed. Like if you convince me that they went 11-1 in the ACC and lost it and they were sitting there pretty strong, I can get behind that. And honestly, crazy enough, spoiler alert, Jonathan and I have the same natty, which is insane. So very, very similar pickings here. And you guys are really talking about smoking some pack. You guys are really drinking the UNLV Kool-Aid.
Dan Mullen guy, that's your guy, Caleb.
It was my guy. I got a new guy. I like him a lot better. He throws podiums.
Yeah. All right. Well, here we go. It's time for Caleb Spears, the final college football playoff bracket.
This is a beautiful bracket, by the way. Okay, so let's talk G5 first. I think South Florida, when you look at their schedule, like the only team to me that really will give them trouble, I think Army obviously presents everybody a little bit of an issue just because of their scheme. But then at the same time, too, they got Memphis on the schedule. That's kind of towards the end of the year. And then Tulane's the last game of the season, but I think Tulane will be down. So I think USF may find a way to go 11-1, 12-0. And I think college football, just as a whole, will have some carnage this year. So you're going to see some more losing teams get in. And that's going to be a trend with all the picks that I talk about. And I'll go down the rest of the list of the seeds. I got USC sneaking in at 11. I think they're going to be like a 9-3, 10-2, but they're going to be strong enough. And I honestly think it's probably going to sneak them in with the fact that I think Mayaba is going to go to New York. I think he's going to be that good this year. And it is a TV ratings business. I hate to say that, but like if you get their, schedule all put out, strength, this and that. I mean, if they go 9-3 in with what they've got on their plate this year and it looks all right, I think they have a shot to get in. And it's not because of defense whatsoever. 10 seed, I got LSU. Again, I'm with Jonathan. I think that they are going to be a 9-3, really strong SEC contender. And I think that there's going to be carnage in all these other conferences. You're talking about the money's really starting to catch up to each other. Like everybody, there's not really many more teams left that are just boat racing the rest of their conference with spending numbers because of the revenue share. So 9-3 is a really good year at this point. And if Lane Kiffin's able to do that in year one, I think they're going to be just fine. And then my 9 seed, I got Bama rolling it back, man. I told you guys in the first podcast that we talked about when we were ranking coaches, I said Kalen DeBoer is a winner. And I think that he's going to, first of all, start Keelan Russell. I think Keelan Russell is going to probably win freshman of the year in the SEC. And due to that, they're going to be competitive in every game that they play in. I mean, that roster, yes, they may spend a little less money than some of these other guys in the SEC like Texas and A&M, and you can name them, all right? But they're going to be well coached. You can't deny that, okay? 8 seed, yes, Ohio State's here. I think they're a 10-2 team this year. I'm not a believer in saying getting it done with, defensive coaches adjusting to him. And then the 7 seed is Indiana. I think Josh Hoover's going to be just fine. I feel as if Indiana is going to be a 10-2 team or 11-1-ish, but doesn't make the college football, or not the college football, doesn't make their conference championship. That's probably their situation just out. I got Georgia being the 6th seed. And if you're a Georgia fan, you really know football, this is exactly where you want to be. Exactly where you want to be. You don't want a bye week. You want to be the 6th seed. I think they end up being the SEC loser, and maybe it's a 11-2 year for them. 5 seed, I think Texas Tech goes undefeated again, but it's going to be in such an ugly fashion that they don't get a bye week. I think either if that's the case, maybe one loss, but they're going to get the automatic bid. And I think again, all the other teams I've talked about so far are 2-loss or 3-loss teams. My 4 seed is Texas. I think they win the SEC. I think that they do it in 10-2, 11-2 fashion as well, but you're not going to not give the SEC championship winner a bye week. The 3 seed for me is Oregon. I think they do win the Big Ten this year. I think they are regular season really good. I mean, we talked about that. Lanning has had those guys in position over and over and over again. We'll see if they get it done later on. 2, I think Miami is up there as well. Only difference between us, I think Miami loses that Notre Dame game by like not getting a 2-point conversion because Cristobal is trying to go for it. That's where I'm at. And I think that leaves Notre Dame to be undefeated. And that if they go undefeated and beat Miami, and Miami's that strong of a team and everybody has such a positive, outlook on that, kind of hard not to rank them 1, especially considering, again, everybody behind them lost. So I got 2 undefeated teams, maybe. Or 3. I really do think Texas Tech's going to lose a game, but USF, possibly, and Notre Dame. Getting into the games, Texas Tech steamrolls the G5. Don't talk about it. It's going to, whoever the 5 seed is, you're going to the quarterfinals. I got Ohio State and Alabama. I think Ohio State is going to be the less injured team at this time of the year, and they also have the stronger talent roster. I think they roll. Indiana is going to play LSU. Again, kind of same thing. The SEC is going to beat itself up. Indiana is going to be an older team than LSU, and that coaching staff is going to will them to win. Georgia's going to beat the snot out of USC. I'm sorry. I know, and I there's some USC fans that are really close friends of mine. I really don't think that getting to the playoff would be great. It's about all they got. Next round of games, let's go ahead and go with Georgia-Oregon right here. Hell of a matchup, by the way. I think Georgia, without a bye week in the playoffs, is probably the most dangerous team in this entire thing. And I think that Lanning is going to find a way to come out flat. Once again, talent be damned, all that stuff. Pressure builds, okay? And at this point, I don't think Oregon truly believes that they can go and win it all. There's got to be just a hair of doubt in there. And Kirby doesn't let the team even think about those goals. It's about the process. So I think Oregon's hanging like natty champs or da-da-da-da. That's going to be their whole thing, and I think they crumble under that. Indiana plays Miami. I think Miami steamrolls them. Miami's going to be a formidable team this year. On the other side of the bracket, Texas and Texas Tech. Talk about matchup, okay? Talk about matchup. I think this is going to be one of the games of the year. It's not my favorite game on this bracket, the second favorite probably. I think Texas wins that game. The roster's just too much, and the quarterback play is going to separate the two. Ohio State, Notre Dame. I already came into this thing saying Ohio State had flaws. I think Notre Dame is going to play this season flawless, and they're going to find a way to at least win a game with the bye week and the number 1 seed, and I got them rolling. So my semis, I've got Notre Dame and Texas and Georgia and Miami. Georgia and Miami is going to be my favorite game of the year to watch if it happens in this spot. You're talking about the most physical brand of football there's left in college football. That game is going to have 5 targeting calls minimum if it occurs. I think Georgia finds a way to win. I really just believe in the age of the players on the field. And I'm not talking about they're young guys, but their experience at this point. And Kirby Smart knows how to coach a good football team into winning games that they maybe should not. I think Miami's got a better roster, truly, but Mario Cristobal is not Kirby Smart. And I got Georgia going to the Natty. I got Texas beating Notre Dame on the other side. I think just the magic runs out for Notre Dame here. And I truly believe that Texas is going to find a way to play their best football at the end of the year. And then in the national championship, couldn't avoid Georgia and Texas playing twice in a year. Here it is. And I got Texas winning it all. I think it's finally the moment. It's just Cinderella story a little bit with Arch Manning being able to win it before he goes to the draft. And Peyton's going to be there and Archie and the whole family and all that stuff. And Sark finally gets it done with all the resources that he's been allotted. Now, he didn't get there cleanly. And Texas fans are probably going to be hot about it after a couple games that he loses this year because they're not going to be perfect, not with that schedule. But we've seen teams like that have been tested in the regular season roll on. Let's go back to Ohio State. They got punched in the mouth right before they got in the playoff, and they were pissed. And I think that's kind of the same mantra that Texas comes out with. Unless we forget, this team has Arch Manning, they have Wingo, they have Cam Coleman, they have the top 2 transfer running backs in the backfield. Who is exactly going to be able to match up with that when it's really on the line at the end of the year? I don't think anybody.
All right. That is something. So really, if you think about it, all of us had Georgia in the national championship. So that's a little scary. Not again, and Caleb's a Florida fan. Let's preference that. No, obviously USF different than UNLV. Again, I said with that thing, I'm not big on the LSU, but you mentioned a lot of 3-loss teams getting in there. That'll be interesting to see if that actually happens. USC something. All of us had Oregon as a 3 seed, it looks like. The Notre Dame Miami 1-2. I find that a little hard to see if that actually happening, just because I feel like maybe they'll be a little more separated. But I mean, we had a lot of similarities. And you guys had the same exact national championship except for one different winner. So everyone had Miami in the quarterfinals, it looks like. Everyone had Texas in the quarterfinals and Georgia in the quarterfinals.
What could go wrong?
It's three of the best teams. Yeah. I mean, three of the best rosters, three of the best coaches, I would say, out of, top 10 coaches.
So,
yep, absolutely. And if you really pay attention to what's going on this bracket, follow the money. Okay. This is probably the top 12 spenders or top 11 spenders in college football right now, truly. And then you got what I said it before, G5. South Florida spends about as much money as anybody else in the G5.
I do like the USC pick. I did mention them as a team to watch in the Big Ten preview. I didn't have them in there because I think maybe they go 9-3, like you said, but I think LSU's 9-3 kicks them out.
Should be something. Should be interesting. Indiana, a playoff lock, it looks like.
I think so.
It's hard to not imagine.
I agree. I said that.
Year.
I said that like a month ago. Somebody said Indiana ? To me when I said that. So,
how could you not at this point? Cignetti proved it to. He was ranked 20th last year, and they steamrolled everybody. We said they couldn't beat Oregon.
No, I totally. I agree. I'm glad everybody agrees. All right. That's our college football playoff brackets. It'll be out on Instagram tomorrow, Thursday afternoon. So I'm sure everybody will let us know how they feel. I'm sure we will not have any bias called at all. Sure, Georgia winning national championship in 2 out of 3 brackets and being national champion in 3 of them. That will not stir anybody up. I'm sure that won't. Okay, let's move over. Let's talk about the NFL. Let's talk about the AFC South today. Continue on our previews. Going to talk about a couple things. We're not doing the true false segment, but we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk some over under win totals, division winners. But first, we're going to start with the top 5. We're bringing the top 5 back, and we're going back to top 5 players. Now, I know we've been going, everyone gives their list. Let's switch it up a little bit here, all right? We're going to, I'm going to give 5. Caleb gets 5. Jonathan gets 5. We'll go that way. And then I'll get 4. I'll go 4, 3. You guys get what I'm saying. All right. AFC South. The Jags, the Colts, the Texans, and the Titans. Top 5 AFC South players. At number 5, for me, I've got Jeffrey Simmons. All right. D tackle for the Titans. 3-time All-Pro. Been in the league since 2019. Fifth most sacks by a D tackle since he entered the league at 42.5. And you look at the other names on there, it's like Aaron Donald, who's still got a ton. He's been in the league for a while. Chris Jones, guys of that nature, a little bit ahead of him. But he's pretty much the anchor of the defense for the Tennessee Titans, pretty much the light that they have on that team. Robert Salaw is going to get a lot out of them this year, I'm sure. Last year had 11.5 sacks alone, so really peaking out right now. Year 7 or 8. And so I believe he is worthy of being in this top 5 in division. Some good players in this division, but I got him at number 5. Caleb, who's your number 5 spot?
I think this is, if Sauce Gardner's healthy, this is where he slots in. I know we just saw him coming off a big injury, but lest we forget, he was probably the best corner outside of Surtain in the league 2 years ago. And I think that if he returns to form, will be just that. And it's hard to not put a lockdown corner and just leave him out. So I got Sauce Gardner number 5.
Yeah, I'm right there with Caleb. I got Sauce Gardner in there as well. Jeffrey, I know, me and Caleb, I feel like we're in lockstep with these.
Same playoff bracket. You guys said same true or false the other day for everything. I mean,
we do not talk beforehand either, by the way, folks. I promise you, this is not clickbait.
Yeah, I just think he's a really good player. And like you said, Caleb, lockdown corner. Doesn't really have the amount of interceptions you would think a lockdown corner would have at this point in his career. I think he's only got 4, maybe 3. Is what I'm seeing on ESPN. So maybe that's more so just teams aren't really throwing his way all that much. Maybe it's just a little bit of luck. Obviously, he got injured last year too. So, but I still think he's a really, really good player. Definitely worthy of being top 5, if not honorable mention in this list.
All right. I did not have Sauce Gardner in top 5, by the way. Just going to put that out there because of the injury. Number 4 on the list. I do have a corner named Derek Stingley on the list at number 4. All right. Second most interceptions in the league, 15, since he entered the league in 2022. Third pick overall, I believe, out of LSU. Number 1 is Kirby Joseph for the Lions. If you guys are wondering who has the most interceptions, I think he has 20. But look, he's been locked down since he got in there. A couple All-Pros, obviously making the Pro Bowl because everyone makes the Pro Bowl in the NFL. But on a defense that's obviously so dominant, to have a guy like that in secondary is huge. And I think it'd be crazy to not put him in the top 5. I think he's probably, you guys said Sauce Gardner. I think Derek Stingley I'm not the corner wizard. They're probably about neutral though. And Derek Stingley does have a lot of interceptions. So that's why I got Stingley at 4.
Fair point.
I got Stingley right there at the same spot for all the reasons that you just said. I think he is better than Sauce. Maybe he's going to this year shake off his first degree burns that Drake May gave him the last game he saw in the playoffs last year. I think he returns to form and is just as locked down as he was last year. It's insane to look at how good the Texans defense was since D'Amico's really gotten there, and Stingley's a huge cog in that wheel.
Yeah. No, I mean, Stingley's a great player. You might hear his name a little bit earlier for me, or a little bit later. Sorry. At the 4 spot, I got T-Dog, Trevor Lawrence. I think he's a pretty good quarterback, especially now that he's got Liam Cohen. It seems like some of those weapons have kind of formed around him a little bit better since Cohen has been there. Obviously won the division last season, made the playoffs. I think there's a lot to like about Tyler Warren, especially paired with Liam Cohen. And so that's where I have it. People can hate that. People cannot. People might like it. It's my ranking.
That it is your ranking.
Jeez, yeah, okay, fine.
It is your ranking. Okay, move on to number 3. This is where I've got Jonathan Taylor, of second most yards since entering the league in 2020, over 7,500. The only guy with more is Derrick Henry, also former AFC South running back. But look, he's had some injury concerns here and there. But when he's played his full seasons, you look at him and he had 1,800 yards a few seasons ago, 1,500 last year, 1,400 the year before, an absolute workhorse for the Indianapolis Colts. And, last year was obviously doing very well when Daniel Jones was at the quarterback position. Things happened. Obviously, more people can key in on him. Phillip Rivers can only do so much for him. But overall, Jonathan Taylor has been a great running back, especially if you're talking fantasy, things like that. Gets a lot of touchdowns, gets a lot of yards. I've got Jonathan Taylor at number 3.
Great dynasty back, by the way. Great dynasty back. One of the greatest picks I've ever made in my fantasy career. This is where I've got Jeffrey Simmons slotted at. I think that just in general, whenever we talk about players on this podcast, I am a big believer in defensive interior and the amount of pressure one player alone can put on an entire offense, and he is exactly that. The matchup problems that he gives are insane. You don't see many D tackles that get QB pressure or sacks, and he does both regularly, and he's good against the run too. So I've got Jeffrey Simmons here at number 3.
It's a good pick. I like it a lot. I got Quentin Nelson at the 3 spot. Yeah, I think he's probably one of, if not the best, top 3, top 5 offensive lineman in the league. 3-time All-Pro, 3-time second-team All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowl selection, 129 career starts, has never missed a game that he's played in he started in every single game that he's played in. So all 129 games he started, never missed one. Career fumble recoveries too. That's pretty crazy.
Oh, that's huge. That's a big stat.
I know, right? I mean, that's a stat you won't hear on
any touchdowns.
No, not touchdowns. But got the ball back for his team. That's what we're talking about with the offensive lineman. A team player. He's always been that. He's been that for his whole career. I think he's well deserving of a top 5 slot here.
I like that pick. I did. I thought about the Quentin Nelson. I couldn't pull the trigger. I just didn't want to do an offensive lineman. But I'm more of
you got to show some love to the big boys.
I'm more of a skill position guy, I guess. And number 2, I've got Trevor Lawrence. This is where I slated him. Look, I know let's take the Urban Meyer season out. Let's take the 2 years out where he got hurt because some dirty guy was hitting him when he was on the ground. Classic NFL defense. But he's had 4,000 yards in the other 3 seasons. He's played quarterback. He's sneaky as a runner, sneaky athleticism. We've seen him. We saw how good he was in that system. I'll also say, we know Brian Thomas Jr. came on a little late last year, or really kind of early in the year, kind of fell off a little bit late in last year. But he's never had the dynamic receiving game. He's always made it work. He makes it work with the guy. I'm not shitting on Evan Ingram, but, solid tight end in Evan Ingram, but, nothing like going crazy. Gabe Davis, Christian Kirk no longer there, was doing stuff with them. You didn't really, if you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he's had any big name wide receivers to work with throughout his career, still putting up gaudy numbers. I think the guy was, touted as being number 1 prospect since Andrew Luck, whatever, for a reason. He still got it in him, and I think he's got the right coach to show that, and we've seen that. And I think just with more and more time, he'll take the Jags somewhere special.
I like it.
I do not have Trevor Lawrence in my top 5. Just
I'm
FYI.
sure Jake Johnson's going to love that one.
Well, Jake didn't get his high school career in it by the guy, so I guess, I got a little more rationale. My number 2 player is going to be Jonathan Taylor. I think he's that legitimate of a running back. You're talking about the guy that led the league in touchdowns last year, the only person to have 20+, and that was with an injury. at one point or another too. Like he is a bell cow and has all the traits that you'd want out of a tailback, right? Can catch it out of the backfield, explosiveness once he gets in the open field, a little power in the goal line. I mean, he's a all tool back and has been doing it in this conference for a long time. And people, I think, kind of forgot about him about 2 years ago because there was some injury stuff there, but also the Colts were a little down. But now that Steichen's there and they've gotten the run game revamped a little bit, if Jonathan Taylor stays healthy for a year, I mean, there's a good chance that he could lead the league in rushing.
Yeah, shocker of all shocker here. I also have Jonathan Taylor at the 2 spot. 7,500 career rushing yards, 69 touchdowns. Kind of sneaky, like you just said, Caleb. All-tool running back. Kind of sneaky out of the backfield catching the ball. 187 receptions and 1,500 yards over his career. 7 years or so, maybe less than that. But I think he's one of the best running backs in the league, top 3 for sure. Always scoring touchdowns, getting great in terms of yardage. He's always got tons and tons of yards. Great fantasy back. I've only had him one time in my fantasy league, but that's for another day, I guess. Great player. A lot of respect. Definitely number 2.
All right, and I think we're gonna have a unanimous number 1 here.
How do you not?
Yeah, Will Anderson Jr. at number 1, 30 sacks in his 3 seasons in the Houston uniform. All pro, probably going to be a defensive player of the year pretty soon. Was a defensive rookie of the year his first year in the league. That defense with D'Amico Ryans, and obviously I talked about, obviously Derek Stingley in the back, but they've got a lot of other guys, Daniil Hunter, all those guys just make him look even better, but he is an absolute wrecking ball. So, yeah, I think we all had Will Anderson number 1, correct?
Yep. How do you not? I mean, when you sent this to me, like the first thing I filled out on my notes when I was looking at it, I was Will Anderson. Duh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the top 2 was pretty easy for me. Will Anderson, Jonathan Taylor. I did have a couple honorable mentions. I think Gary just mentioned it. Daniil Hunter, Travis Hunter, Tyler Warren. I like a lot at the tight end spot. Those are a couple guys that.
Yeah, I thought about getting edgy with Travis Hunter. Maybe if he had 2 years under the belt.
Yeah,
but thought about it for a second. All right, let's move over to win totals. Let's start with the Houston Texans. 9.5. And these win totals are brought to you by our friends at the Fanatic Sportsbook and Casino. If you guys want to check that place out. So the Texans 9.5. I've got the over here at 9.5. Okay. Look, we talked about Will Anderson and Derek Stingley, or at least I did right there. Well, I guess we all did. But obviously the defense is going to be just as good, maybe even better than last year. I mean, it was pretty generational last year. It's going to be good this year. We know it's going to be top 5 in the league. D'Amico Ryans, great coach. I'll say this. I think CJ Stroud, I got a haircut this offseason. All right. Got rid of the dreadlocks or whatever they call us. Went with huh?
I said it's news to me. I didn't notice.
Jonathan, You didn't see the video of him walking in and everybody was like, oh, no, they need to trade him. You didn't see that?
Nah, I'm not online like that.
Well, he got a haircut and he looks sharp. All right. And I think he's in a new mode right now. Okay. Also, he's had some tough games here and there. All right. He's had some tough moments. I think it's a bounce back year for CJ Stroud. Obviously, I like David Montgomery getting added to the backfield over there. They've had some tough running back issues over the last couple of years. Nico Collins, obviously, still a dog out there, sneaky good for fantasy as well. The offensive line was a problem last year. They revamped it, spent a lot of money in the offseason on that, some draft picks. Obviously, got the Rutledge guy out of Georgia Tech. We'll see how that goes. But I think the Texans the defense is obviously going to carry them to a lot of wins, and I think the offense, the quarterback especially, is going to improve. So I got them at over 9.5.
I'm right there with you, Gary. I think they just slightly hit it. I think they kind of go 10-7, somewhere in that range. But I totally agree. I think their defense is absolutely going to carry them and keep them in almost every single ball game this season. And then if CJ Stroud can just kind of get that rookie year magic, at least a touch of it back, yeah, watch out. They're going to be a dangerous team.
Yeah, I've got the over on them as well. I don't even know if he has to be magical because this defense is going to be so special. I think really he's just got to avoid turning the ball over. I mean, we saw it time and time again last year in critical spots. He was trying to force things and be the magical player that he was the first year. And he's got to become a veteran and take what the defense gives you and be patient because when you slow the game down, you play better.
Yeah. So you had the over too?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So everybody's going over on the Texans. Take the under this year for the Texans. All right. Colts, 7.5. I've got the over for the Colts as well at 7.5. Look, this was a great squad last year. Obviously, I think they were number 1 team in the NFL for a while until Danny Dimes went down. But I think they'll get it fixed up. everything will be good. I liked what we saw out of him last year. I don't think he's going to forget how to play quarterback, especially at the peak he was doing. I think he's going to remember that feeling. He's going to find it again. So I think he'll be good. Obviously, we all talked about Jonathan Taylor. They have a great offensive line led by Quentin Nelson. They just signed Keenan Allen the other day to be a part of that wide receiver room. They gave some big money to Alec Pierce, but Keenan Allen's going to be there kind of replacing the Michael Pittman that they lost over the offseason. Some good signings on the defensive side to kind of ramp that thing up. So I just kind of like the Colts. And I think this AFC South schedule overall, when you look at what those teams got dealt in terms of the other divisions they got to play, I think it goes in their favor. I believe they're playing the AFC North. So they got some, games against the Browns are going to get the win. They get the NFC East. So, they get to play the Giants, the Commanders, who I'm not big high on. We'll talk about the NFC East later. But yeah, so I've got the Colts 7.5. 8, 9, whatever it will be. I think they go over 7.
I've got the over on them as well. You go back to last year before the injury situation popped up for them. We were talking about them being arguably the best team in football. You know what I mean? And they had the best offense at one point or another, and then it all just came unwound in like a 2-week span. And we were talking totally different about the Colts year. And they ran it back for a reason. They pretty much tried to build on what they had last year. They didn't really turn the place over or anything like that. And so I'm a big believer in what they've got going on this year.
Yeah. 3 for 3 on the over. I'm right there with you guys. How could you not like that team before, like you guys said, it kind of came unraveled. I like offensive line play. They got a good offensive line. I think Jonathan Taylor is still, like we just talked about, one of the best backs in the league. I think Danny Dimes is going to get back on track. I think they've done some good things in the wide receiver room. I like Tyler Warren. I think their defense could use a little help on the defensive line, but I still like their secondary. I like who they have at linebacker. And I don't see a way when you look at the schedule, like you said, Gary, how they don't get to 8, 9, or 10 wins, somewhere in that range. I think I have enough trust in them to do that. So I'm going.
All right. Again, all of us over. So make sure you take the under. Jags 8.5. I've got the over here as well. I've got a sneaky good division this year for the AFC South. All right. They were division winner last year. We talked about Trevor Lawrence. I think he's got the right coach. I think Liam Cohen is the right coach there, especially with the offensive stuff he's able to do. We saw what he did in Tampa a couple years ago. We know about that. I do think the wide receiver room could be a bit of an issue. Brian Thomas Jr. is obviously a stud when going, but we're kind of going to need to see a little bit more because he was a little inconsistent towards the end of the year. Gabe Davis is there. Big game Gabe. We didn't really see a lot of that in Jacksonville last year, so we'll see if he's able to step up. Obviously lost the running back room. Also kind of something that's like in terms of when you look at the depth chart, you're a little concerned. Lost ETN last season, and now Travis Hunter's on the defense, so you don't really have that guy on offense. Maybe they'll have some packages, but overall, I think I just trust that the team that they won 13 games last year, and so they're sitting at 8.5 now. I know they lost some stuff, but I trust that coaching. I think the defense with Trayvon Walker getting the extension, obviously Josh Hines Allen over there, Foyo, however you say his last name,
Oluokun.
How'd say it?
Foye Oluokun.
That guy, he's been a leading tackler in this league before. So I like what they'll have on defense. I think that they'll be able to win them a few games, especially with the pass rush. Obviously, having Travis Hunter in the back or in the secondary helps. So I think this is more of a. I know, like I said, there's concerns for the skill positions in terms of what we know about them, but I trust the coaching, and they're gonna figure out a way to get it done. So I've got them at over 8.5 as well.
The first against the grain pick. Sorry, Jake. I got them going under this year. I truly just think that there are going to be NFL teams every year that are up one and down another. There's a lot you're asking to replace in terms of production for that team this year on both sides of the ball, in my opinion. And also you're asking players to progressively build on what they've done. We've seen it time and time again. Just because you were good last year does not guarantee you anything for the next season. And I think whether it's the injury bug or just not able to gel together, I think they go under 8.5.
Yeah, Gary, I hate to do it to you, dude, but I'm going under as well, ever so slightly. I hate to do it because I do like Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence, like I just mentioned. I think he's a top 5 player in this division. But the bugaboo for me is the weapons that he's got. Like he's dealing with a struggle bus of weapons right now. And it's not like they even really tried to attack it in the draft either. The draft was all about offensive line, defensive line, linebackers. So maybe they feel comfortable with what they have and that's it. But I wouldn't. I don't. I can't really see it. And I think there's just too many good teams, too much talent in this division to where somebody's going to have to lose a few of those games, and I think it's going to be the Jags.
All right. There we go. Now you can pick whichever one and not feel that bad about it, over or under. Man, if Jake was here, he would have had an aneurysm there, Caleb. You didn't put Trevor Lawrence in the top 5 or give him the over.
We'll
All
hear
right,
him tomorrow.
Titans 6.5. This is the only one I've got going under. It's going to need to see. You're going to need to see the Titans prove it to me with Cameron Ward. Obviously, rough year last year. They got a new coach, new regime over there. Obviously, Brian Dable's over there, going to maybe help them out. But I'm going to need to see it before I believe it. Cam Ward, I don't know if this is a hot take or not. He gives me more like, generational college quarterback vibe. Not sure if he'll get it done in the NFL. And maybe just, I don't know how everybody else feels about that. That's kind of the vibe I get. Robert Salah, also a guy I'm going to need to see to prove it. I know the Jets had some tough situations when he was over there, but he also didn't win a lot of games as his first stint as a head coach. They also gave Wan'Dale Robinson $78 million in the offseason to be a wide receiver for him. So, I don't know. Is he supposed to get more catches than Cornell Tate now? I don't know. But I don't know. You look at the roster all around, just not very exciting, and a lot of unproven stuff there all across the board, and a franchise that's been down for a little bit. So I went with the under 6.5.
I'm right there with you. I just don't think that they're going to take enough of a step to get over this hurdle. And it's not going to be, in my opinion, because of Cam Ward. I think you come back to the offensive line play and just the holes that they have at the skill position on defense, especially in the secondary. So Robert Salah is going to get this thing on track at some point or another, I think. Unless we forget when he was with the Jets, kind of didn't agree with his firing. They were 6-3 at one point in one of his tenures. And then it kind of came loose, and that was that. And we know how the Jets run their operation. Hopefully Tennessee gives him a little time to breathe, and maybe a 5-12 year doesn't knock him completely off the rails for them.
Yeah, I want to believe in the Titans, but I think we're a year or two away, like you kind of alluded to, Caleb. I like Cam Ward. I think he's a good quarterback. I mean, it's kind of hard to really stand out when your team is just not built like the other teams. That's a tough ask, I think they did do a good job of shoring up some holes on the weapons front with Cornell Tate, with Wan'Dale Robinson. And they have Calvin Ridley as well. Shout out to him for making all those bets. Shout out Fanatics. And I do like Robert Saleh too. I think he's a good head coach. I think he'll have that defense a little bit better. I think he's one of those guys that can take, less talent and do more with it. I don't think he's going to be able to get 7 wins this season with it. So I'm going under. But if that number was sitting at 4.5, 5.5 even, maybe I might think about taking it. But yeah, I think they're going to be better this season. I don't think they're going to be 7 wins better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a lot of that when I think about that 6.5, I think it, like I said, mentioned earlier, that schedule that the AFC South draws, if you don't know how NFL schedules work, they switch around, they play a whole NFC division, they play a whole AFC division, they play their own division obviously twice, and then I don't know how the other random games work, and they got the luck of the AFC North, who, I mean, again, Browns, the other ones you could say, but those other teams have signs of choking and things like that. We know how the Ravens can be, but yeah, so I think that's maybe why they had that 6.5 out there. So, all right, all of us going under. So Titans should have a good season this year. All right, division winner. Let's coming out. Who is winning AFC South? Good way of not spoiling it. But I will start it off. I've got the Texans winning this division this season. Like I said earlier, I just like this team. The defense last year, they really came on last year. I believe, I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure last year they were not good. They were 0-2. I think they started. They had a tough start, and then they just went on an insane run late in the year, won a bunch of games in a row, obviously won a playoff game, and then, CJ Stroud decided to throw 4 interceptions in the playoff game, but I don't think that'll happen this year. I don't think he'll be doing that in any regular season games. I, again, believe in CJ Stroud and what they believe, or what he'll be able to improve on this season, kind of get back to that rookie year type. D'Amico Ryan's great head coach. They say that we don't have enough black head coaches. Well, the couple we've got, that's a good one right there. All right, that's a great one. I really like what they did on the offensive line to revamp it, because that was obviously a problem for them last year. I like the weapons that they have. Love the defense. Love everything about the Texans this year. I think they'll have a really solid season. So I got them winning the division.
I'm in agreement with you. I think the defense is going to travel for them very, very well at the end of the year, and that's kind of the convincing factor. I know they're a dome team, and usually that destines you for failure at some point or another in your season, but that level of intensity on the other side of the ball for them is, one, what wins playoff games and late season games when it matters. And also, two, the game travels. If anything, defenses that are that physical play better in the cold. The colder it is, the better it is. So I'm a big believer in them turning it on at the end of the year. And like Garrison said, maybe they start off rough, whatever the case may be. I think they're going to be able to right ship and find a way to beat the Colts out for this division.
Super chalky episode for this AFC South preview because I got the Texans as well. I think it's the Texans and the Colts in this division, but I think the edge goes to the Texans when you just look at that defense. We've talked about it all episode. They hunt the football down. They go out and attack. And it's like Caleb was saying, defense travels. And what's the old saying? Defense wins championships. They're going to have probably the best defense in the NFL. And I'm in love with them. I believe in them. I think CJ Stroud can get back to a little bit of his former self, like I said earlier in his rookie year. And watch out now. They can make a run for the Soupy, but I definitely think they're winning this division.
All right. So pick anybody but the Texans to win the division this year. All right. So that'll wrap up the AFC South preview. I'm going to finish this episode off with some deep thoughts. Caleb?
I'm going to talk about preseason reps today. It's a long lost art, forgotten fable, story old as time where your starters played in the preseason. I mean, we talked about Tua the other day. He's not even getting reps. This is game 2, and I think they could probably use it. I saw a clip on my Twitter the other day, New England back in the day. It was like 2008 or 10, and Randy Moss and Tom Brady were still in the game with 1:30 left in the third quarter, and threw a 70-yard bomb. Like, guys are not trying to stay in the game like that anymore. They're so freaked out about injuries and this and that, and the contact stuff. I mean, the players are already trying to get away from doing much of the tackling and OTAs and all that other stuff. I mean, that's part of like future CBA talks, and the players organization or association has talked about that multiple times. What happened, man? Like, if in my opinion, I don't have an agent, and I've never made more than $1 million in my life or anything like that to understand what these guys necessarily are thinking or hedging against. But whenever I played football personally, it would take a lot for me to, one, not even like don't take me out of the game. Why am I coming out of the game? It doesn't matter. I played one game and don't remember the second half. Probably should have came out. I'm not coming out. I'm not coming out of the game. And whether it's preseason, like even any of that stuff, or like I would fight for scrimmage reps, man. Like those things, any ball that you could get me into, I want one more play. And nowadays, these guys are just so far and away from that. Like, I want to make sure my body's safe. We play 17 games now. I get it. But I mean, we see this in every league. It's not just NFL, but like NBA, game management, like all that stuff. Like I'm just so fatigued over it, man. I saw also, and I know we're a football podcast, Michael Jordan, when he had the flu game, they popped up a stat before the game. He had missed 7 games in 7 prior seasons before that. LeBron James, I think he is the greatest player ever, and maybe that's a deep thought for another day. We'll miss 7 games every year for the last like 5 years and going forward because, I mean, he is a grandpa or whatever. So I just think it's a lost art. These guys need to like have some competitive edge and juice about them to be like, no, coach, I don't need to come out. I understand you're like, you want the best for your players, and these are big investments, but they were back then too. You think Tom Brady and Randy Moss are not big investments? I mean, those guys won the MVP the year before, and they're playing in this preseason game, like week 3 preseason game with 1:42 left on the clock.
Yeah.
Some coach speak right there.
Definitely. Yeah, it got me fired up, Caleb. I think everything went downhill from when 2-a-days went away. When the new CBA came out in the NFL, they're like, we're not doing this anymore. We're not going out in the heat twice a day. What is this? You guys been doing it for centuries out here, playing football, doing 2-a-days in the summer. That's what builds men. It's all downstream from there, in my opinion.
I think it all went wrong when they started letting males be cheerleaders.
That's a good point, Gary. Great point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, the Vikings.
Now you really got me fired up.
God, whenever they started letting quarterbacks paint their fingernails, that's when it went downhill.
I can get behind that. You're going to see the fullback come back here soon, though. Like these, I think all that stuff led to the evolution of football. Like, why do teams come out and throw the ball more? Well, early on, they were not good at running it. You know why? Because they don't run the ball against good on good in practice because they're scared of injuries. Like but it's coming back. I mean, the best teams in the NFL last year were under center: Seahawks, Rams, you name it.
All right. Well, that's a good one, man. I agree. To make football tougher. That's what we all want to see, right?
Absolutely.
I do.
All right. Good.
Especially for the money these guys are making. Good Lord.
Yeah, come on.
Wan'Dale Robinson, 70-something million. Come on.
All right, Jonathan, give us yours.
Mine is kind of along the same lines, but it's turf versus grass. What are we doing? Why does every single playing field nowadays have turf? I mean, you guys have probably played on turf. That shit sucks, especially down south in the fucking heat. Like, bro, those little rubber pellets burn, bro. That field is like 150 degrees when you're playing on it. It's not fun. The athletes don't like it. It causes more injuries. Whatever happened to natural grass? You walk outside, you see some natural grass, and it's a thing of beauty. You go out there and see some turf. You're like, it's fucking AI world, dude. It's taking
Man-made
over.
shit.
Chat GPT field.
Dude. Chat GPT has field, dude. Get this thing out of here. So I don't really have much more to say on it. I feel like a lot of people are kind of on my way of thinking with this. Like, I get it's cheaper, and that's the issue with today's world. Everybody's worried about money and doing the most cost effective thing.
Yeah, but the World Cup has to play on grass. Can't play the World Cup in your stadium if you're not going to grass now.
All right,
That's the thing for me, for sure. Like, we've already seen all these stadiums. They can do it. If they really wanted to, they can do it.
These NFL teams and college programs, most of them at least, they have the money to be able to keep up with a grass field. Like, it takes maintenance, and you got to water it all the time. And, it's like a golf course, you got to really take care of it. But dude, you're talking to a brick wall if you think I'm going to believe that these teams don't have the money to be able to maintain a nice grass field. It's professional football. How do you not? How are you not putting the best things on the field that you can? You're just doing a disservice to your team, the fans, and the game as a whole.
I 100% agree. And like, you're talking about return on investment. Like, these teams get rev shared how many billions of dollars a year just from TV deals, and you can't put, $250 million, if it takes that much for you to figure out the logistics to have a grass field. Like, I understand, the NFL is moving to a domed league almost. So, you got your different things there, but Arizona rolls the grass in every week. They built their stadium to do it. And it's a great playing surface for the most part. They have their challenges here and there, but who doesn't? I mean, even teams that are outside, but the natural grass provides a regular element to the game. And yes, injuries, there's no way you can argue that non-contacts happen less when turf's in the equation. That's just not how this goes. And you're exactly right about being in the South. I got a gripe because, I hear all the time, old heads, when we talk about turf, like AstroTurf, there's things come out recently. They're like, well, a lot of these guys had the same cancer and it had forever plastics, So that was bad enough. But then the modern turf, I mean, when I was a senior in high school, my cleats melted the first game of the season. We played at 5:30 on turf, and the studs on the bottom of my cleats melted. I was walking. Yes, Mercer University, shout out. I was literally trying to spray water underneath my feet as I sat down or walked around on the sidelines. Like, I would stand in one spot, just wet it, and just stand there, just trying to cool my feet off. It's a problem. And then try sliding in practice or in a game with no leggings on a turf field that ain't worth it.
I got the turf tape.
Multiple times I lost leg hair. Multiple times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not to get all scientific, and this is the last point on the deep thought of the week for me. Not to get all scientific, but I think the grass, it absorbs the heat and the sun and everything else a lot more, obviously. Whereas the turf, it's basically plastic and rubber underneath that synthetic shit. So it doesn't absorb anything. So it reflects and makes the playing field incredibly hot. It's literally like 135, 150 degrees. It's insane.
Yep. And not only that, it absorbs contact better. Like, you're talking about, how do you grow good grass? You got to have soft ground.
Yeah. I mean, turf fields outside, that just sounds like the dumbest idea ever. But
I could get it if it was like a snowy area, or like they couldn't grow grass, like maybe up in, I don't know, like Minnesota or something. It makes a little sense.
All right. Well, great deep thought there. I have one, and I kind of thought of another one a second ago, but I'm going to do this first one. Did you guys know that the Pac-12 has a flex week this year?
What does that mean?
I did hear something about that.
Did you guys know that the Pac-12, so obviously it's a new league, right? They revamped it. Boise State, Colorado State, obviously Oregon State, Washington State, San Diego State, Texas State, Utah State, Fresno State. That's the Pac-12.
How many states?
Just the Blue Bloods.
Yeah, it's the state conference. But they have a flex week in the final week of the year, which means each team, as of right now, is only scheduled to play 11 games. All right. So that means in the final week of the season, now to preference this, they already have matchups that they have planned for the final week, but they're not official. And the reason they're doing this, one, is because they only get to play 7 conference games, and so they didn't want to play 5 out of conference games. But they're doing this essentially. So if they get to the end of the year, and let's say Boise State is 11-0, and another team is 9-2, they want this game. They want to match those teams up, or if there's a team that's 5-6 and another team that's 2-9, they want to match those teams up so the other team can go bowling, or they want to match the 11-0 team up against the 9-2 team so that team can get another quality win on its resume. So essentially, all these teams only have 11 games scheduled. They're going to play the 12th game, and it's going to be scheduled, I believe, probably. I don't know the exact date it'll be scheduled, obviously the week before at least, but I would maybe assume 2 or 3 weeks before they'll get it on the schedule and get it finalized. But yeah, interesting thing because they as of right now only all have 11 games on the schedule, and they're doing it in a way to kind of help boost their resumes if needed and help. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole deal.
I think this is like JV type stuff. You know what I mean? Like I get they're trying to like help themselves and be different, and good on them for doing that and thinking outside the box. But come on, bro. I mean, what are we doing here? You're telling me I'm like, why am I not knowing who I'm playing the entire year? Like, you're gonna sit there and tell me that like, oh, we might be playing the best team in the league, but we might be playing, the fucking worst team in the league. Like I don't know. It's so dumb. Put the 12 damn games on the schedule. Give them to everybody. See how the games play out. What are we doing?
Yeah, so they're literally
How do you
going to play-
determine who gets enough home games? That's my
So
thinking,
that's the thing. So that's a good point. The home games are already established. The teams that are going to be home teams are already established. So Utah State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and Washington State are all going to be the home teams to make sure everybody gets 6 home games. So that's already established. So really none of those 4 teams can play each other. So it's really between the other 4 teams, where will they go? And that's
It's a total
and basically you're going to be playing one team twice.
I mean, what do you think, Gary?
I guess I don't have that much of a strong opinion on it. I just think it's interesting. Like, that's just a little wild concept. I mean, I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to like put a marquee game on the schedule late in the year, but I don't believe they have a conference championship. So I think this is the kind of their way, I guess, of filling that in and like, scheduling it in that certain way. But because the teams are already home, the home team's already established, then I'm not sure it'll work out in their favor. But it's just wild that that's a thing. And like, I feel like not a lot of people knew about it.
I definitely didn't know about it. And I'm glad you clarified how do you get home games or not, like who you do it. But then to me, like, okay, what if Fresno and Colorado State are sitting there, whatever situation they're trying to get to? Are they trying to get to, their 2 best teams and kind of crown a champ? Are they trying to make sure all their, own the bubble bowl game teams, anybody that's at 5 wins is able to, jump through the hoop? It just seems like a lot of math that's not needed. And it feels like they're trying to game their way into more conference success. Why wouldn't every other G5 school do it? Why wouldn't ACC and then the Power 4 do it as well? Like, okay, we'll just, we'll have instead of, the FBS week or FCS week that the SEC has right before a rivalry week, let's just make that the flex week, and we'll get whoever we want. If Ole Miss, they're probably a lock for the playoff if they win the Egg Bowl. Let's make sure they're playing South Carolina. No offense.
But yeah, it seems like the main reason they're doing it is because they only have 8 teams and they don't want to play 5 non-conference games. So they're instead of just giving everybody determined last week, they're going to switch it up. So interesting. And the second thing I wanted to say is we've reached the point where there's going to be NFL players coming back to college football. I don't know if you guys saw all this, but that judge ruling the other day or a couple weeks ago that, guys from 2022 can, if your freshman year was 2022, I guess, you can come back and play for a 5th year. Some judge in Colorado apparently made that a rule for all of college football.
Shocker, it was in Colorado.
And like, I've seen a couple names like Cole Spear, the guy who blocked the punt for Georgia against Alabama last year. He's coming back to play for Georgia this year. But there was a bunch of guys that got ruled eligible, and one of them's name is Jack Pyburn, who had 2 sacks for the Bucs the other day in their preseason game against the Jets. He is eligible to come back. Now, I don't think he's made a decision yet if he wants to. I don't think he should.
How is he eligible?
But he is ruled eligible today to come back. Now, some players are still not ruled eligible, though. There's like stipulations, I guess. The NCAA has some type of power, but like it's getting to the point where I saw a graphic just a second ago. Some Seahawks running back has just entered the transfer portal.
College football is the second most watched sport, second most cared about sport in the entire U.S. and it doesn't have any sort of breathing leadership. Holy crap, bro. I mean, whatever. College basketball, it's gone to shit. That's fine. It can be what it is. I like March Madness, and that's really all I like it for. College football, don't mess up a good thing. You know, you might think you have people there forever, but take a look at NASCAR. They tried to pivot and, you know, cater to people that were not in, you know, their audience demographics and profiles. Guess what happened? They lost a shit ton of people who were diehard fans because of what they were doing. I mean, just
Bud Light
back there, right?
You can go down the damn list.
I was never a Bud White fan to begin with.
Budweiser was good.
Caleb, any thoughts?
I mean, Jack Byburn being at the center of this thing, I have no remorse. He's a Gator trader and took more money from LSU. So, yeah, if you play downs in the NFL, you should not be able to come back to college football. It's the same testament in college basketball, though. If you play NBA basketball, you should not be able to go from the Cavs to the Knicks, G League, and then come back to play for Alabama. That's just jacked up. It's not the way it should go. It's not the way it needs to go. I mean, if you're going to do that, why wouldn't every school go try and sign NFL guys? Like, say you came at like a 2022 grad, right? What if he declared early for the draft? He's been in the league 2 years and says, I'm coming back. Who's going to stop him? Judge ain't. I mean, like it's gotten to a point. This is absolutely insane. Might as well let guys bet on football too. Why not? It's just whatever.
They want to do that. The former Seahawks running back TJ Harden. He played at SMU and UCLA. He has entered the transfer portal. And the pictures, him in a Seahawks uniform.
I hate
if he played in a game, there's no way that should be like allowed.
I mean, that's what they did in college basketball. I mean, like you just mentioned, like, they had guys that were literally playing on NBA rosters going to Alabama and shit. Like it's like old man yelling at the clouds type stuff for me. Like
but we're not old men though. That's the crazy part. Like, they're just, yeah, okay, sure. And we're just like,
anybody can play that type of shit.
All right. Well, that'll wrap up. Long episode here of Deep Shot Podcast. Fun episode. Had a lot to talk about. A lot of emotions strung here, early, middle, and late. So let me tell you guys one thing before we get out of here. This is the last week of the off season. All right. Week 0 is next week. All right. We probably will not talk about the games on Tuesday. We'll probably talk about them on Thursday's episode next week. Made a text to friend of the program, Caleb Vega, UNC fan, UNC diehard, to get onto the show next week, give us his thoughts of what he thinks they might be able to do against TCU over there across the pond. So we'll find out a little bit more. Fun to talk about that next week. We'll be back on Tuesday. We'll finish up some NFL division previews, talk some more business and college football. Maybe some quarterback battles will be announced. We'll find out. But again, thank you guys for listening. Subscribe on everything. Follow us on everything. For Caleb, for Jonathan, for Gary, Deep Shot out.
Peace.